I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarlane. Glad to be here. Special edition of Conversations. We have an opportunity to connect with marvelous artists who are going to be presenting in Minnesota in the near future, uh, presenting at the stellar partner organization, the Ordway Theater. And the group is Black Violin. A great story, great music, a great presence. They'll be joining us momentarily, but I want to begin the program by welcoming and thanking Quentin Misiag, who's with the Ordway, to talk about creating this opportunity for us to connect with Black Violin. Quentin, how you doing?
I'm great, Al. Thanks for having me. We're super excited for Black Violin. This will be their third time at the
Mhm.
Ordway, and every time they come back, they seem to garner bigger and bigger audiences. So I think it's really a testament to the audience base they have here, and the Ordway is a great partner. It's super fitting. Their show is not until April 3rd, but really wanted to focus on tying in with Black History Month, and they just have a really dynamic sound. And they'll talk more about this, but one thing that I appreciated in hearing about their music is that they kind of break and reshape stereotypes of what classical music can be. And
Mhm.
they have the violin and the viola, which are traditionally very classical instruments, and they just bring a whole new perspective to that. So
I think that's exciting. I think that's what makes them so unique and actually so critical. They are bringing the world of hip hop, the massive hip hop audience, which is not only American but global, into sort of an awareness of both the classical tradition, but also bringing the classical to the hip hop audience to show the universality of beauty. What they are doing is conjuring beauty in their music, in their stage presence, in their mission, and they succeed quite well, I believe. They're on a national tour. I was looking at the notes. They're doing around 200 dates, and so what a challenge, particularly coming out of in the middle of still the COVID-19 uh, pandemic in the country and in the world. But how did you first become aware of them? Where did you learn about them first? I just want to know what your personal story is with them.
yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I actually heard them on NPR Music. They did an interview kind of right in the beginning of the pandemic, and they were touring a lot right before, and really just having snippets of their audio and kind of talking about their upbringing. That was my kind of first foray. I had never really heard of them before, but I kind of got hooked after that first interview. So, like I said, the Ordway is just super excited to have them back, and they're definitely captivating in their music. Kind of defies, one genre, and both are classically trained.
Mhm.
Violinists and violists, Will B and Kev Marcus. So yeah, like you said, it's a really great opportunity to kind of blend that traditional hip hop with classical training. And they have this sound that in the NPR interview I really took hold of, and they call it classical boom.
Mm.
So that phrase is so dynamic and so exciting, and it makes you think, well, what does that mean? What is classical boom? So they'll share more about that. Um, and yeah, really, the cool thing I thought too was pre-pandemic, they have such an undercurrent of music education and
Mhm.
advocacy. Particularly, a lot of their performances are in low-income areas and our urban communities. And last year alone, they played for over 100,000 students. So I think
Wow.
that's really awesome. And they've also participated with organizations like the National Association for Music Manufacturers
Mhm.
to kind of continue their advocacy for accessible music education. So they're much more than just performers. They're really musical advocates. So I think that's a really exciting
Well, let,
aspect too.
let me share some of their bio, and I'm taking this from Wikipedia, but it's interesting. Black Violin is an American hip hop duo from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, comprising of two classically trained string instrumentalists, Kevin Sylvester and Wilner Baptiste, who goes by the stage name, who go by the stage names of Kev Marcus and Will B. Kev Marcus plays the violin and Will B plays the viola. And for over a decade, this classical meets hip hop duo has steadily built a devoted following, culminating in 2 sold-out shows at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, with the National Symphony Orchestra commemorating the 50th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s death. They've developed an act that covers hip hop songs on their violins, which became popular, songs that became popular in local clubs. 2 years after sending a tape to Showtime at the Apollo, they were invited to appear on that show, and they did, and they won and kept on winning. So they've been doing that. They were approached by the manager of Alicia Keys, who asked them to perform with the singer on the Billboard Awards. Other offers followed. They toured with Mike Shinoda of Linkin Park, opened for Wu-Tang Clan, composed the music for the Fox series Pitch. Individually and together, Will and Kev have worked with Alicia Cara, 2 Chainz, and Lil Wayne. All the while, Black Violin continues to tour and to play as many as 200 shows a year. And they've released 2 independent self-financed albums before releasing their acclaimed project, Stereotypes, in 2015. Well, they're here now. I see Kev is here anyway. Kev, good to see you, man. How are you?
Very good, very good. Thank you guys for having us.
Well, thank you for being here. We've interviewed before. It's good to see you again. I'm glad you're coming back to Twin Cities. And I just love asking you about both the mission in your own mind. What inspires you? What drives you? And what feedback do you take from the thousands of people that you touch through your music and through your instruction? I see you not only as an entertainer, artist, but as a teacher, as an instructor, and I see you on a mission. But that's just me. So I'm gonna have you talk about how you describe yourself and your work.
You know, it's interesting. Will and I, we think of it as just sort of, we're just doing us. You know, we go on stage and play, and we don't have any nervousness, any fear. We do what feels good to us, and that's it. And don't do anything else. You know, that's all we do. So like, you know, for me, I think of it as it's such a inspiration that we can just do us 100%, like being true to ourselves. And when we're finished, you know, on stage or recording, people are like educated, entertained, and inspired, you know? So, you know, as I've just turned 40, I'm sitting back thinking like, man, like that is the thing that is so special about it, is that, you know, tonight we're here in Atlanta and I'm going to go on stage. We're sold out, 2,700 people. And I'm just do me, you know, I'm not trying to entertain you necessarily. I'm just playing some music. And at the end of it, people stand up and applaud what we do because we've been building for this long. So that's the thing that I take from this, that it's like there's such a freedom to it, you know, and I get to go on stage and sort of be weightless almost. And people love it. And I get paid to do it. So it's really a beautiful thing. And when I look at our career, that's the thing that I cherish the most. I think you're muted.
Let me respond to that as a writer. And as a writer, I see my role and mission, Kev, as an observer. I call myself a witness, right? And so I treasure the opportunity to view, to witness, to chronicle, to document. And as you are speaking, the image in my mind is that you're saying you have the fortune and the groundedness to simply go out and breathe, be yourself, right? And so the beauty from the observer's point of view is in the apparent joy you've discovered in being for real, being yourself, and having this conversation in music and in the company of hundreds or thousands or beyond that if you're doing it on television or radio, but you're completely and totally comfortable with that. And so you do it without being nervous.
You
You
know,
don't get queasy about it. Just go out and lay it out. And so, what is happening in your body and in your mind as you're breathing, being you, doing what you do? Do
well,
you
lately
see
I've been
do you see yourself doing it as you're doing it?
Um, it depends. I try to find a place where I'm really present in the moment. I'm really trying my best on every time I'm on stage to be present.
Hmm.
It can be difficult because we play so many shows, and the show is easier if you're not really like totally connected in a way. You know what I mean? It's like
Hmm.
you're working less if you're not fully here in this moment. But as I get older, and I just it was just think of these blessings, I try my best to maintain a level of presence in every moment. And so I don't if I'm outside of myself seeing myself, then I'm not really here, So I try to just be here. I try to make I have a couple tools that allow me to do that. Like I make eye contact with every single person in the first 6 rows. And that's
Hmm.
something that I do just as a performer, because
Hmm.
if I'm doing that, then I'm connected. I'm connecting
Hmm.
with you. I'm passing my energy to you, and then you to everyone else.
Hmm.
And so those are things that I do to try to like maintain a level of presence, while I'm, in stage just doing me, and the band is just doing us. And but it gets harder. I'll tell you, as time goes and the shows go, we're already, we started this tour on February 1st, and tonight we're playing our 18th show, and it's the 16th or 18th, or so it's like it'd be a show a day, basically. Some
Hmm.
days with 2 days, two shows per day. So so it gets crazy as you just kind of pitch these games every day. But being present has been everything to me, and just trying to just we're blessed. So I want to remember every moment that we have on the stage and not take it for granted.
Does the menu change? Does the offering change, or is it pretty much set? Is there? I mean, what's your approach? How do you plan your work, your presentation?
Yeah, I mean, the show is pretty much set. The show
Mhm.
will every now and then add certain things. Like if you're in a certain market, we're like, oh, we're in New York, we want to play this, or tonight we're
Mhm.
in Atlanta, so we may throw an Outcast thing in or something. But for the most part, it's pretty set. It's pretty set because at the end of the day, we feel like what we offer is very universal. If we went to
Mhm.
Japan, we'd play the same thing. And we just want to be us. So for the most part, yeah, the offering is the same, but it's pretty impressive every single night, and everyone gets it, a different way. We do have a 10-minute section in the middle of the show where we just make up something and freestyle, and
Mhm.
that's different every single night. There's sort of a structure we have internally of who's going to solo when, but what we solo is completely up to us. And so that's our favorite part of the show. It normally gets a standing ovation in the middle because it's just pure potentiality. It's like five
Uh,
people on stage believing on magic.
and
And
that's totally improvisation. I mean, there's improv even in the planned work, right? There's an improvisational nature, or
For
not, or
sure.
it's
For sure.
yeah,
I mean, we've written all of these songs. So,
yeah,
like to us, it's like we can rewrite anything at any time, So,
right.
but for the most part, I think we have a pretty good structure, and we pretty much stick to it. But that freestyle section, so with 10 of the 90 minutes we perform is straight off the top of the head.
Walk us
And mhm.
walk us through your show tonight. What are you going to play? What are the titles that you're playing tonight?
We start
And
off.
I mean,
Mhm.
here's what I want to know is how you chose to start with this, and what this song means, and what it leads to, and then why the next one is next, and how you feel as that progression unfolds.
Yeah, it's systematic. Like, our show isn't just we're not just randomly picking songs. It's all built, to make you have the most impactful experience.
Hmm.
And it's been something we've been building over the last 20 years. So this show that you see tonight is or you guys are gonna check out, but it is really a living organism that has been growing for 20 years.
Yeah.
And the songs may change because we have new albums, but there's a system. So we start off with a song called Rise, and it's off of our album Take the Stairs. It's the first song on the album. And if you listen to any of our 5 albums, the first song on all of the albums are a palate cleanser. We feel
Hmm.
like you're out in the world, you're hearing this, you're hearing that, you're listening to this, people talking to you. When you put it on, it's supposed to completely clear your palate, like
Yeah.
eating a piece of ginger before you have your first sushi
Hmm.
roll. It's kind of like that. So we start the concert with that as well, and it's just an awesome, just sort of really airy piece, no beat. It's just really pretty chords in it. And the last interview I just did, she said it sounds like the sun is rising, and that's what the point. That's the point. And then we have a light show
Hmm.
that goes with it. But then right after that, it's like 2 minutes, where that's how we start. Right after that, then it's kick you in the FaceTime, and then we're like, we want you to just be like, whoa, I want you to be like, just like, oh my gosh, like, is this violins and these lights? This thing is loud. Like, I want you to be overwhelmed.
Mm.
Maybe to the point of, if you've never seen this before, overwhelmed to like, wow, I don't know about all this,
Hmm. Hmm.
because we want to show you the loudest we can be, so that when we do become soft, that soft seems so much more soft because of how loud we just were. You know,
Mm.
you can only like you can only be as loud as you can only be as loud as your softest soft, and as soft as your loudest loud. So that's how we treat it. So the first three songs is like bomb, hit you like, here it is, and
Mm.
and it's like this definition of Black Violin. It's violent acrobatics, really hard hitting beats, lights going. It's high energy. Then we start breaking it down for you.
Hmm.
And then, 4 or 5 songs in, Will's just gonna start plucking something on his viola, and you're gonna be like, "What?" He's playing it like a guitar, and then he's gonna open his mouth and start singing, and now everything changes, and now you're like, "Oh wow, there's singing happening." And then we start going into a few of those songs, the vocal songs. Then we break you down to the classical stuff. Sit down, quartet style, play a few really interesting records the way that we think of it. Cool takes on Dvorak, and cool takes on a shaker melody, Vivaldi, things like that. So we kind of bring you through that. Then we freestyle in the middle. And that's sort of the freestyle. Right after the freestyle, you kind of at the intermission. It's no intermission. We play it straight through, but that's the feeling of it. And then at that moment, it's set up so that different members can go off stage and take breaks during the next few songs. So we don't
Hmm.
do an intermission, but everyone gets a rest at some
Yeah.
point to recalibrate, tune strings, whatever needs to happen. Then we become way more like, we pull it apart and we start doing piano records. We have a DJ set where he just plays all of these crazy, awesome things, because we have an awesome DJ SPS. Then we break into the last part of the show, which is just the bangers, and we start with we do this thing where we take a Bach Concerto No. 3 and we mix it with Biggie's All About the Benjamins, and it's
Huh.
like the crowd favorite, and people always go crazy for it. We've been playing this record for 17 years now,
Wow.
so it's one of the ones that stayed from the very original Black Violin
Yeah.
shows. And then after that, we just go into 4 big, massive, heavy closer songs. And that's when we get you out your seats. We start playing some Cardi B and start playing things that and then you get out your seats. And then the last 20 minutes is like everyone's just dancing and clapping and jumping around. So that's basically how it's set up. So there's something in there for everybody, whether you're the person that came here for the classical music. There's moments where you'll just be like, you'll close your eyes and be like, wow. And then if you came for the hip hop, there's definitely a lot of like, and we play old school sets, play new stuff. So it's just it's something for everybody, and it's not just what we play, it's how we approach it. We
Hmm.
just don't look like a normal violin player. I think we walk around the stage more like rappers than we do violinists, just the way we walk around and cross the stage to entertain you, and we stare at you the whole time, where you don't normally see violinists look at you.
Right.
Violinists normally have their eyes closed, and we
Right.
are staring at you and entertaining you, and that's
You're
that's
talking
the
to them with
difference.
your eyes and your music and your
Of
body, really.
course,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
course. Hmm.
I had this idea, brother, of musicians back in the medieval days as the town criers, and even more than that, the traveling musicians would be the ones who brought the news from city to city, country to country, and their stories, their storytelling, their singing would somehow impart the feeling or the story or the success or the failure of the town before, or some towns before, and inform people about possibilities. Do you see musicians that way? uh, and I raised the question simply because, as you were saying, that you and uh, uh,
Will.
Brother Will
Hmm.
B,
Hmm.
uh, interact and move around on the stage. There's a certain kind of communication, I believe, happening in that. So how do you is my question a good question? First of all, do you respond?
I'm trying to see if I understand you, or if I follow you exactly. About the chemistry part of it. I want to answer it the way that you're thinking. So you help me
Yeah.
out with it.
So two things. One is chemistry, but mission.
Hmm.
My picture of what the troubadours did
Hmm.
was bring the news from market to market as part of the mission. Troubadours were also, in my mind, kind of like psychiatrists or the barber or the priest, or they would provide an analysis of what they saw in front of
Hmm.
them and reinterpret it and bring the people from out of whatever they were into something that represented a refinement, a movement up, a betterment of their
Yes.
spirit, of their experience. So
Hmm.
I think you've been describing that. I'm just sort
Yeah,
of playing back what I'm hearing you say.
yeah, I think I understand. I mean, with us, it's the music is one part of it, but we say it on stage every single night that everyone is coming here thinking that this show is about the violin, but this show is about thinking outside the box
Mhm.
and breaking stereotypes. That's what the show is about. We're using the violin as a tool to do that, but we see too often. There's two things. One, I have three daughters, and they expect me to sit around and say, hey, make sure you get good grades so that you can go to college, and this and that. I'm very different than that. I'm sort of like, what do you wake up in the morning and want to do? Like,
Mhm.
do that.
Mhm.
Find some way to do it differently than everyone else. Do it over and over and over and over, and then someday somebody's going to pay you to do it, and you're not going to work a day in your life. I remember telling my mom I was going to study violin in college, and she started crying. She was like, oh, it's like, I know that you play the violin and we're trying to get a scholarship to college, good job, but how are you going to support yourself as a violinist? She was so worried. And I was like, well, I love it, so I'm going to figure it out, and I
Mhm.
think that that's the thing that's the message that we try to bring,
Mhm.
to everybody, kids and adults, even, just sort of, you find that thing you love. I mean, we had it the whole time in high school, but the whole time I wanted to be a doctor because that's what I thought
Yeah.
success looks like. That's what I
Yeah.
thought, but at the end of the day, I found more success here because I truly am happy with what I do. I'm weightless when I'm working, and we've fallen into this thing that, we just do this thing that we truly love and people also love it,
Mhm.
and it just so feels like I'd never really work. I mean, honestly, the work is more the interviews and the traveling and the setting up and
Yeah.
stuff. The show
Yeah.
is nothing. That is nothing at all.
You used did I hear you properly? Did you say you're weightless when you're working? Did you say that?
Yes, I feel
Explain that.
like,
I love that. Explain
when
that.
I'm
Yeah.
when I'm when I'm in the zone musically, like, yeah, I feel like I'm just kind of floating, like, like
Mhm.
there is no gravity on stage.
Mhm.
That's when I'm really just sort of carefree. And it's like I could miss a note and I won't even flinch at it, it's that kind of thing. And it happens most nights. Some nights it's elusive, some nights it's the entire night. I just feel like I'm floating.
Mhm.
Depending on the audience, the crowd, what I did that day, my energy levels, things like that. But yeah, no, I experience weightlessness. That's sort of the high that I get from performing every night. And then, at the end, I take out my in-ear monitors and I just hear the crowd, and I'm like, man, we everyone on stage is just doing us, and here you are
Mm.
lifting us up.
Mhm.
So it's a blessing. That's how I think about it, is a feeling of weightlessness.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm feeling you. Just in you describing it, I'm seeing it and hearing it in my own mind's eye as we speak. And the question that you've already answered, but I'll ask it anyway, is the question of how do you know? How did you know? How did you come to know? And how do you continue to know the love you have for both the instrument and for music and for what music is in the universe? What
Mm.
what what is music in creation? First of all, what is it?
I think music is like it's closer to physics than it is to art.
Okay,
There are
so it's
certain things.
science. It's science. You're
It's
saying.
a science,
Mhm.
I mean, if you want to feel a certain way, if I play a C major chord with a seven on the top, there's there's a sine wave that is created that is harmonious to the human body. So there is science within music all around it. So for me, like lately, been the thing that's been keeping me into it, especially because depending on the notes that you use and when you use them, it can move an entire room's emotional state,
Mm,
and the way it's doing that is the vibrations and the chord structures of what you're playing truly have a sort of a it's like connected to the world, connected to the
mhm,
earth, and for me, my inspiration comes in kind of dissecting all of those things and trying to move a people all at the same time with notes and chords, so to speak. So that is how it keeps it interesting to me. I've been playing now. I've just got to 31 years of playing.
mhm,
So I will be honest. There's times where I don't love it, even when I'm on stage, even when I'm weightless. I just
mm,
I've been doing it a very long time. So,
mhm,
but for me to be interested into more, I kind of put it into I think of music a bit more in a metaphysical, and it allows me to kind of activate that side of my brain to
mhm.
learn better how to move an entire people's emotional state with one chord.
I've always thought of music as mathematics. That makes sense to you?
Oh, for sure. It's
Um,
definitely all patterns, but when you get deeper into it, it's really more scientific. Because this there's certain frequencies. Sound waves have different frequencies, and different frequencies resonate differently in different people. And I learned a lot of it, just from scoring. There's different techniques that people have. Like there's different chord structures that you can have that creates tension, and you can
mhm,
put it behind a really pretty chord. But if you put a descending scale line just descending underneath it, it creates tension. If you think of like the movie's Inception,
mhm,
Hans Zimmer is great at it. So it's like
mhm,
there's such a science behind it that in the
mhm.
last 5 to 10 years for me, it's been the mathematical scientific side of it that has been more interesting than the artistic side, truthfully. And
Do you have
so
your
I
instrument
find it
with you? Do you want to show us anything?
I don't even have it. I just got into this dressing room. I haven't even brought
Okay,
my
okay.
violin in, but I mean that would be good. I didn't have it with me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love the conversation, and I really, really thank you for taking the time to do this. Um, and so, the second part of that was about love.
Yes.
When did you sort of realize, and how did you realize that love is the right word that describes your relationship with music in general and with the instrument in particular and the
Love is
doing?
interesting. It's interesting. I've struggled with that word love in all contexts, whether it's family or relationships or anything, because love to me, if as defined by normal by like kind of societal standards,
Hmm.
it's kind of fixed, but truly love can move and change over time. So with music, there's times where I do love it, and there's other times where I kind of have resent to it. I'm not sure why, but there are other times where it will feel like that to me, and I will truly kind of resent the instrument. So love is it's a touchy one for me. What I found is that I found ways to reconnect with the instrument anytime I felt like I was kind of falling out of love. Just because I do it, and we do it at a high level, and I do love being weightless, but there's a lot of that comes with it that sort of could make you kind of fall in love out of love with it. The business itself is a tough one. So it's like the business itself is just it's hard. So it can kind of weigh on you in that way. Or even now, like I'm in Atlanta at a dressing room and I love what I do, but I haven't seen my kids in weeks. So there's parts of the business and parts of this career that could make you fall out of love with it. So for me, I'm always looking for that thing that connects me, whether it's the scientific mathematic part, whether it's I'm trying to be present in every moment on stage to make sure that I recognize and I don't take for granted what's happening. So that's how I think of it. At the beginning, even in the beginning with the violin, it wasn't love that kept me there. It was almost opportunity or the sociology of it. I
Hmm.
remember my first job interview. It was at Levitt's Furniture, and
Ah,
I was a customer service. I went for a customer service job, and I talked to this interviewer, and I'm like, yeah, she's like, well, when would you be ready to start? I'm like, I can start tomorrow. The only thing is, I have a couple of college auditions that I need to take next month that I have already blocked out. And she was like, college auditions. Like she was like, what do you play? I'm like, I'm a violinist, and I'm auditioning at Juilliard, Northwestern, Cleveland Institute of Music, UM. And she's like, oh my gosh. And she's like, my daughter plays violin. And then we go down this whole path. And then she was like, oh man, okay, well, all right, you start tomorrow. And she just hired me. And I was like, And I went home, told my mom about the whole thing, and then she was just like, "Oh, well, and you told her about you play violin too." I was like, "Yeah," and she was like, "Maybe that was it," and I was like, "That probably was it." And
Mhm.
it was then I thought about it. I'm like, I'm a big black dude, 6'2", 300 pounds, back in those days, it's the '90s sagging pants,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
everything, right? Hip hop culture, and then I was like, man, just the idea of me playing this instrument
Mhm.
has that's what gave me the job.
Mm.
It's not even that I didn't even play it for her. I didn't even have it then, but the idea of me playing it is what
Yeah,
got it. And then that is sort of the thing that made me love what the instrument could do for me.
right.
I've always loved making music and all of that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there's a power, there's a I can I can disarm somebody
Mhm.
just with the idea of me playing the violin.
Hmm.
And they're misconceptions
Even
like
before you play, the thought of you
so I
playing.
play it, just the
Yeah,
thought
the
of me playing
knowledge.
it.
Yeah,
Just me telling you I play it. Like,
yeah.
really, because they think of violinists as like a brain surgeon or a rocket
Mhm,
scientist. It seems like
mhm,
very unattainable, something
mhm,
very difficult to do. And it is, but
mhm.
for me, early on, I realized that I'm like, oh, just the idea of me playing it. And then if I play it for you, it's over because I'm really good. So that was the thing that drew me and kept me. And that's sort of the basis and the sort of the mission and the foundation of Black Violin is that we do something that people that look like us aren't supposed to. And not only do we do it like that, but they're like, I've never seen black guys play violin before. So I was like, oh, perfect. So we're gonna be the biggest, blackest guys you have ever seen play the violin because
Ah.
you've never seen it before. Perfect. And that's what we've done. And now everyone looks at us as like we're pioneers in some way, but I'm like, you the one that told us that you've never seen this before. So,
Wow,
and
wow.
that's the thing that kind of made me love the instrument. It wasn't even just about music or art. It's sort of what is the sociology behind it. It's almost
Mhm.
sort of, you can disarm somebody, really easily by just telling them you play. And if you have a violin nearby, it's over,
It's over
because
then, right?
oh yeah, like
Yeah.
I remember high school. The fathers of girls I dated in high school. And they're
Mhm.
just like, "Oh, here he comes," and I was just like, "Oh, I brought my violin. I just came from practice. You play violin? Sure, I'll play something for the family. Wow, you
Come
could
on
go out.
in.
Go ahead, come
Come
on
on
in.
in. Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
right.
so, same thing with for my friends. It's like if I'm going out, they're like, "Oh, you going out with Kevin? Oh, Kevin, the violinist. Go ahead. Is he driving? I know he's a good boy.
Yeah.
It's just like that kind of thing." And I'm like, I've always been able to play with people's misconceptions, and it's my favorite thing about the instrument. And that's the thing I think I love the most about it is just that I'm not supposed to do it.
I've got a description of what you've told me in my mind. It's ruminating, but I'm loving the story, and uh, the word that's popping up is stealth.
Mm.
That you are both a strategist and um, what's the right word? Anyway, I'm picturing this in my head as we speak, but I'm enjoying how you describe what you do and the powers that you have discovered through the idea and that amplified by the actual capability to practice the knowledge of doing this work. Well, listen, I just want to tell you thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. Let me remind our viewers that you're going to be in Minnesota at the Ordway on April 3rd at 7:30 p.m. And how do people follow you in the meantime if they want to start getting ready for you? Where do they go and check out your work and uh,
Well, you can start off at blackviolin.net. That's where you can grab tickets for this show or any show, and it has all of our information there. Facebook.com/Black Violin Music or at Black Violin on Instagram and Twitter. We also have our foundation at Black Violin Foundation, and that we give out tons of scholarships. Is about to be a brand new application that goes out. Kids from all around the country send a video in, do a send us a little audition, and
mhm.
then we help fill in gaps. So whether they're trying to go to a summer camp or audition for college, or they need an instrument above their student level instrument, we are a resource. So definitely check out blackviolinfoundation.org. If you want to apply or if you like to donate to it. Last year we had 18 recipients. It was amazing. And this year we're hoping to have way more because funding has been really, really good. People have been donating and they see the cost. So that's pretty much where you can find us, blackviolin.net or blackviolinfoundation.org.
Brother, thank you so much. Good to see you again. Looking forward to seeing you when you come to Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota to be at the Ordway. It's the Ordway Black Violin on April 3rd, 7:30 p.m. We'll see you later on. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.